Welcome back, everyone, to the second or third session of Activate Change 2021. Joining with me are Ryan, Devlin, Sonya, Vanjicki. Now, these are two marketing people who I've worked with who actually get results. I'm working with them at ChangeGPS at the moment. Ryan and Sonya have come from Panalytics. So a lot of people around know the Panalytics crew from a very long time ago. I worked with Rob Nixon initially, and it's great to have you guys here. Ryan and Sonya, welcome.
Thank you, David and Tim. It's so excellent to be part of this session. It's our first virtual event that we've been part of.
I don't know, me and Tim are seasoned.
For the new year. So.
Now, I just want to explain what you guys are going to talk about so that everybody listening understands where this part fits in the practice. Because sales and marketing, either accountants go two ways. We either say, that's fluffy, that's crap, I don't need it. Or we get the stiff back, complete resistance, completely closed off from it. Here's where it fits, everyone. Value plan price is right at the end. The client's heard about you, they're interested in you, they start engaging with you, they start talking to you, then you need to make an offer to them for work. That's where VPP is. What Hunt and Hawk do and what Sonya and Ryan are experts at are all the stuff beforehand. Now, a lot of accountants don't like the word growth because we're already so busy. Growth can mean getting better clients at better price points with better margins so you get a better return. Someone made a comment before, I may have missed it on foot. I can't remember who said it. I'm working 80-hour weeks for 50 hours pay. Value plan price helps with the price if you need the right client, or if you're early on in your journey, and I know a lot of people are early on in the journey, this is a way to find and attract new clients. So Ryan and Sonya, and everyone who's in the chat group, say g'day. I want to make sure everyone's back. Maybe just quickly share, are you looking to get better clients or you've got capacity and need more volume of clients? That'll be really helpful. Chuck it in the chat group. Ryan and Sonya, share a bit about yourselves, please.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, David. And that's a really good question. I'd love to know the responses, so keep them coming in. So who are we? Essentially, I don't want to say that, I don't want to harp on the fact that we worked with Rob Nixon, but the point is that we have worked in the accounting profession for the last 12 years. At least I have. Ryan slightly less. But then we noticed that accountants are exceptional at doing, running a business and servicing their clients, but the gap was really in the sales and marketing and the branding component of that. So we saw that gap and we jumped on it. That's when we established Hunt and Hawk in 2017. And we solely focus on sales and marketing strategies for the accounting profession. We have since branched out into fintech providers and SaaS and software companies. So we do have a team. There's some team members there you can see on the right-hand side. And our team is a mix of onshore, offshore, local, and all over the world, actually, and interstate. So we're a very remote team and very cloud and tech-savvy team, and that's the way we like it. So just to go on to a little bit about what we do, our four main areas are branding, marketing, sales, and technology. So I won't go into too much detail about that, but what I do want to talk about is what we know about how accountants market or how they don't market. So the three things here are that when we talk to firms, majority of them, I'm not saying all of you, but majority of you say that you're lacking in brand presence. Your lead generation activities are pretty much non-existent, or you're struggling to build a contact base. And then all the processes to support that activity are kind of, you don't even know where to start, essentially. And the problem with this is that in order to generate new business and to get better clients, which is what I can kind of see coming through the chat, is that's the essence of marketing. And the three core things that make up marketing are just that: branding, activity, and processes. Now, I don't know, I hope everyone agrees with me. Feel free to put it into the chat, but they're the three things that I'm going to walk you through today. And we'll kick it off, we'll go straight into it with branding. Now, I absolutely love branding. If any of you know my background, this is my forte, and I'm probably going to spend most of my time on this session, on the branding component, because this is essentially what sets the scene for everything that you do, but it's also the part that you seem to care little for, or don't understand, or just ultimately screw up for some reason. And I don't want to hear these excuses of I'm not creative, I'm very analytical. It's got nothing to do with that. By branding, I'm not talking about your logo or your visuals, although visuals definitely play a big part of it. I'm talking about who you are, who you want to be, how and where you exactly fit in. So what this means is absolutely nailing your audience and the industry that you serve, your why, your brand personality, and your exact message, so you can ultimately build the core of your personal communication. So this is the stuff that I'm talking about that gets executed, and that's the key word in all of this. It gets executed and mobilized thousands of times over, so you can extract value from that for years. So what we see often is that firms may have done a brand strategy workshop, or they get really pumped up. They watch Simon Sinek, they hire a coach that understands all your different dimensions and how you operate, and that's really cool. But what you end up with is a stack of documents similar to what you had before, and years, sometimes even months later, you still look like a confused suburban accounting firm. So the bit that you're missing, and please, no disrespect, but the bit that you're missing is essentially you've done all this awesome groundwork, but then fallen on the execution of all that work. So having your brand voice really stick the landing for all the effort that you may have put into strategy over the years is where you want to get to. And unfortunately, this is why most accounting firms get lost in this sea of sameness. Now, tell me, like, if I go to your website and, if I go and check out your WordPress and not just your company website, am I going to absolutely love what I read? Am I going to absolutely love what I hear and what I see? Or is it just going to bore me and I'm just going to click off? So I'll take you through a few examples of what I mean by that now. If we can go to the next slide, there is an example of an accounting firm here. Now, just take 30 seconds to tell me what you think is wrong or right with this site. I'd love to know, because this is pretty much what a typical accounting site looks like. It's reasonably fresh, modern. It's not too cluttered with content. These guys have actually done a new website in the last, I think, 6 to 12 months, so it's pretty fresh, right? It's not uncommon for a firm's website to look as though it was done 3 years ago and kind of recall that whole we're old and tired. But without, I can't wait. I'm just going to get stuck into it. I can't wait for your responses. So what's missing here is essentially a voice. So accounting for Australian medical and dental practices, that's awesome. But if someone came up to you and said, accounting, advisory, strategy, cash flow, blah, you'd be like, whoa, are you on the spectrum? What is this, right? It doesn't make any sense. And that stuff might be opening up a conversation. It might be reflecting the pain points or the resolutions that you offer, but it really just doesn't set up the relationship to speak in the way that you want to speak with people. It's kind of missing that whole creative part. And the conceptual messaging, as we call it, or a strapline theme, that's what you get from knowing your core audience, from having a clear message and a voice and a tone, and just executing your brand with personalization. So now let's go to another example of what it looks like when a strapline is actually executed. Now, it's possible a client might actually come up to you and say, I want more freedom. Or Tim mentioned earlier, I need cash flow, so I need because I want a better lifestyle. That's exactly what we did here with Collins FBA. We basically, and there's walking a fine line between professional and cheeky here, but their strapline is for freedom's sake, because obviously the slip of one word there kind of turns into something very rude, but it's still highly professional and people get it straight away. So the other thing with branding, especially for accounting firms, you're all exceptionally unique individuals. Tim mentioned that at the start of the call as well. And, you know, we've all been, I've certainly been to enough pack and zero cons to know that you're all very energetic and unique individuals. But because you essentially offer the same suite of services, you seem to just get lost in this big sea of the same. So instead of uncovering your own voice and using, you kind of tend to use the same as everyone else, right? And this is exactly why when we ask our clients, what marketing have you done to grow your firm? The number one response is referrals. Or for the more ambitious ones out there, they say, I've set up a landing page, I've set up emails, you know, I've done this and that, but nothing has resulted in new clients. It's because you haven't started with why. The execution of your brand message is just not done properly, unfortunately. You've gone and got a template website, you've subscribed to a library of content that everyone else is using, and it just flops. Okay, but it doesn't actually have to be that way. So if we go to another example on the next slide, this is Humanity Financial. So these guys target charities and not-for-profit companies. Even though they offer exactly the same suite of services as Collins SBA, the previous example, comparing these two is like night and day, right? So my point is, although you guys all offer the same thing, if we uncover the right brand core messages, it's presented so uniquely and so differently. So we did a campaign for these guys. We ran after the site was launched, and that produced 52 leads per day for them. They effectively asked us to actually stop with this marketing activity because they just didn't have enough hands on deck to deliver.
I'll just interrupt you and ask the question, Deborah. 52 inquiries a day.
Yeah.
250 a week.
Yeah. That's right.
It's about the website. Right. You have to get people to the website, didn't you?
I'll get to that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
good. I'm glad.
I'll get to that bit. I need to stress how important this is, right? You know, earlier Tim said, you know, what do you want? I want to work smarter, not harder. I want to get efficient with automation. I want, you know, my team to be happy. I want to sell at a high valuation. And there was like all these different responses coming through. Well, you know what? You need to play a bigger game to do that. You need to have a clear brand story that will enable you to do that. So, okay, I get the point. It's enough about me ranting on about branding. Let's get into that activity, shall we? So once we're solid on brand, then we can start to plan out all our activity. Now, every accounting business needs new clients each year. You want to keep your business fresh, you want to grow. Certainly, most of you just tend to wait for referrals, and don't get me wrong, referrals are great. We love them, but they're just not consistently reliable. So what we want to do is set up that system to generate the steady flow of leads. And what makes this 1,000% or 100% at least easier is knowing that ideal avatar and the industry that you want to serve. So, which of course, if you get your branding process right, will be clear as day. So before I go into this lead generation activity, just a little math exercise. It's actually really good to set an allowed lead cost. So what you're actually prepared to spend to get a hot lead in front of you. Now, typically, if a good client is worth $20,000 or something per year for you, you don't really want to be spending more than 10% of that to get them in front of you. So your CAC, which is your client acquisition cost, would be around $2,000. And let's say you convert one in 4 of those leads, that split makes an allowable lead cost of $500 per lead. Okay, so as a ballpark, there's a whole bunch of activity you can do to drive those consistent leads, but keep it to about $500. Now, there's obviously there's so many ways to generate leads, and some will work, not all will, but the utmost first thing that you need is a database and a community following. A lot of firms that we talk to, they just struggle. They're like, I don't have anyone on my list. I don't have anyone but clients. There's ASIC databases, there's business directories, there's social groups. You can offer giveaways, there's partnership promotions or joint ventures you can be part of. You can go to LinkedIn as a source. LinkedIn is a really, really good goldmine for lead generation. But the bottom line is you need a couple of these methods in order to gather a database of, a few thousand potential prospects. And yes, you can buy a dirty list, so I'm not going to condone that. But my point is, once you need a list, then you need to engage. What are you going to say?
I got an offer this morning to buy the list of everyone who registered for Accounting Business Expo. If you get those emails done, and you often think you want to buy an SMA list, don't do it, mate. Not worth it.
Nah,
how many people going to that? Are there 3 or 4? Because it's not happening from anyway. It's just funny getting these lists saying there's 4,000 people, and no one's going to be going to it because it's probably going to be anyway. That's a different story altogether. I'll back off now. Yeah.
Right.
We're gonna get me and Tim on some scotches, everyone. We'll share a few views of the world.
All right. No comment. But yeah, essentially, don't buy it. So the next point I want to make is content. Now, I know content is king, blah, blah, blah. It's like a buzzword these days. But you don't need to become a thought leader. The objective of your brand and marketing is essentially to build credibility in the eyes of your prospects so they can just experience you before buying. So every touch point or, content interaction will help you chip away at cracking what is known as financial intimacy that your prospects have with your competitors. Now, what I will say is, if you paid attention to the branding component earlier, please at all costs avoid going to companies that mass produce content where you can pick from a library that everyone else is picking from too. It's bad for so many reasons. SEO is just one of them, but it's not unique. So it doesn't matter what content you produce, videos, blogs, books, Facebook rants, whatever it may be, you just need to make sure your content is unique. Hire a marketing coordinator, hire a content writer, a father, I don't care, find someone in your industry. It's got to be written in a tone that sings your brand, that's unique to you, so I can understand what it's like to work with you beyond the work itself. Okay, if it's not unique, you're just going to float back into that sea of sameness. All right, last point, channels. Now, there's hundreds of channels and ways to distribute content. I know you know that. There's email, social, webinars, email, text message, direct mail, whatever it may be. They all have different open rates, response rates, costs. One of my favorites right now is actually using a program like Octopus CRM. Or Meet Alfred, if you want to, and I say those with a disclaimer because LinkedIn can flag you if you use them, but if you use them smartly, they won't. So, and what that allows you to do is to automate LinkedIn campaigns. Now, this actually worked wonders for us. We're branching out into the SaaS industry, and I won't tell how many leads a day we're getting, but it's actually been really lucrative. So if you have a LinkedIn following, or whether you do or don't, you can use these apps to also extract the data and the emails from those people and build your database that way to kickstart that contact list. But what you need to do with these channels is work out which channel your specific, if you've got a niche, which channel your audience is hanging out at. They might not sit at a desk. They might not jump on webinars like you guys do. They might not, scroll through LinkedIn, but they do hang out somewhere. And if you did the right groundwork with your brand planning and your profiling at the beginning, it really won't be an issue to pick the right channel strategy. An example, we had an accounting firm that was targeting lawyers. So they knew that lawyers, when they're not in the court, they're actually sitting at their desk. So what they did was they stuck a $2 coin to a physical letter and posted it to them in the mail. The letter was all about buying time and that kind of thing, but not necessarily about the message. It was the fact that the coin had some weight to it, and that it cut through the gatekeeper, produced a high open rate, and there was a average response rate of about 60%. Now, this is pre-corona, where we could dish out money, easily. There was no risk. You might have to put a credit card or a gift card or something these days. But either way, the point is the thought out steps played a big part in this campaign's process. And if you want to know more about that campaign, I'm happy to share more about it later. But, you know, direct mail is probably a really cool way to engage some people with all the noise and everyone being online these days. Now, I touched on process, so that leads me to the next part, processes. Now, this bit's really cool, actually. People often get bummed and they quit because, you know, they don't see quick and instant results. But what they don't realize is that the process is actually the result. So, you know, marketing, you know, it can come in from a variety of activities and channels, as I mentioned. It then feeds into a landing page. But the critical part here is to be able to surprise and delight your clients or your prospective clients. And the cool thing about this is that you can automate the surprise and the delight. So when you add surprise and delight to your sales process, beautiful things will happen. So you'll see on the right-hand side here, there's some happy snaps of people holding drinks. They were part of what we call the Cheers campaign. David was one of the more recent ones. And essentially what happened was that every time someone went to book in a meeting, we've got an automated process that they select a drink preference, and that drink miraculously shows up to their door within 30 minutes of our meeting, our Zoom call. So this whole process was able to be automated using the tech that's available to everyone on this call. It's nothing, you know, groundbreaking. It's just using Uber and a good CRM. So our objective here was, are you trying to say something, David? I can see you wanting to.
No, I'm just trying to work out the return on investment you guys have gotten from a 6-pack of Coronas. Worked well for you.
I'll let you work on it. Well, this is my point. $500 per lead if you go back to the allowable lead, you know, it's not much, right? So the objective here is to, you know, demonstrate the power of marketing and automation using a CRM, showcase technology because that's the type of clients we want to attract, and surprise and delight, you know, show your culture, show your personality, provide some value, but do it in a really fun way, okay? And a really simple way too. And ultimately, you know, you want to convert that lead, but mind you, we should be continually surprising and delighting all the way through the onboarding and the client journey. Do not stop that at the sales process. Cool. So, you know, there's so many incredible apps out there that complement what you do. There's plenty of people on the call that will speak later and go into some of those, but there's nothing stopping you from having a cool process to help you execute on all your business's, you know, branding and marketing activity. So I just want to stress, invest in implementing technology into your process because it's essentially there to work for you. Okay, so that's pretty much the 3 core areas of marketing for an accounting firm. This whole process segment that I've just gone through, Ryan's going to now dive a little deeper into what that could look like using a marketing automation and CRM tool in your business for an accounting firm. Oh, hey, Bruce. Just join us. It's like bumping into people at a conference, sort of. All right, go for it, Ryan. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sonya.
Perfect. Thanks, Son. And I do apologize, guys. I didn't realize I hadn't muted my microphone throughout Sonya, so I do apologize if it was switching between her and I as I was moving around the desk. As Sonya mentioned, you know, part of the marketing and sales process is working out how to eliminate repetitive tasks. And, you know, at Hunter and Hawk, what we do in particular with accounting firms is work out what is going to be the best solution and the easiest way. Prior to joining today's session, we did a couple of surveys just on some private other accounting groups. And we were surprised but not surprised by the results. You know, out of the participating firms who were willing to do the survey, we found that over 63% hadn't actually implemented a proper CRM. A lot of them were still using either their practice management tool or they were using spreadsheets just to manage how their leads were coming through and some of the touch points. The danger of that is we miss out on a lot of data. you know, the modern world, there's two currencies that I often talk about. One is attention, which is what Sonya just spoke about with branding, getting their marketing activities up to speed, using content in a way to keep them engaged. And the other one is data. You know, that's nothing new. We've known data is a new currency since, you know, 2006 when, Clive famously quoted, data is the new oil. When you apply an awesome CRM, and again, there's a lot of tools out there that can allow you to enter the market at a low to no cost, we capture all of this information across those areas, whether it's top of funnel, middle of funnel, or bottom of funnel, or when it's applied to the buying cycle, which is awareness, consideration, decision. There is so much information that you guys can use to your resource. So if we go back to our Cheers campaign, we started off with a very simple website. We know that talking about CRM and tech stacks can be quite daunting and a little bit boring. So we went, well, how do we spice this up? Using a very simple landing page, setting the scene with a bit of an agenda, and having a simple form that really just has 3 icons to choose from. The moment someone fills that out and books a time, an automatic email goes to that person. So in David's case, it was beer. Then the email replied back, what type of beer? Lager, IPA, pale ale, stout, doesn't really matter. The moment David replies back, an automation triggers. We place an order with BWS. 30 minutes prior to the meeting, David gets a knock at the door, which is this nice little screenshot here. We pulled a couple of strings with the delivery driver, woke him, shocked him a little bit with a camera in his face at his door, a box of Coronas at his doorstep. Now, David, from your experience, I mean, you had no idea that was coming.
No.
And it was quite seamless. You know, you filled out one form and all of these actions happened. Internally for Hunt and Hawk, all we had to do was put our credit card down behind BWS to organize the delivery. That was it. Everything else was streamlined. So when we have you go.
Something I found really interesting about that experience was this combination of service and hospitality involved in the sales process. And now that everyone's working from home and we're doing less and less face-to-face with clients, you don't have the benefit of a client walking into your office, seeing your reception, being greeted, sitting in the boardroom, being offered a coffee or being offered a drink. In ChangeGPS, we've actually got, in one of our resources is a drinks card that you print off and put on your boardroom table of drinks that you offer. And you guys have sort of virtualized that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We've really taken, we've thought outside the box. You know, the client's experience when someone rocks up to your office, you know, when they see the sign reserved for Ryan Devlin, the moment they walk in and they get greeted by the receptionist and taken to the boardroom, that doesn't exist anymore. And this allows you to kind of create a very unique impression from the get-go. And the best thing about it is unexpected. You know, no one knows what they're doing when they click on that icon. We've done this a couple of times. We've done it with a B1G1 campaign. We've done it with, you know, non-alcoholic, because we know that, you know, sometimes at 9 o'clock in the morning, a 6-pack of beer is probably not the best thing. And we've streamlined it across. Another firm close to us on their profile had, I love chocolate M&Ms, in particular peanuts. So what's the first thing we do? We organize a box of peanut M&Ms to arrive at the door on the day that we're going to meet them. These things are very low cost that sets the tone from the start. The best thing, again, like I keep saying, is we can automate it. So when we talk about like the 3 stages of data, I mean, my opinion is it goes collect. We need something that stores it and collects it. The second stage is having something that interprets that data. You know, we don't want to just have data there. Like, what does it actually mean? What does it mean that this person has jumped on our pricing page or our solutions page 10 times in the last week? How do we then use that data, which enters into stage 3? So the diagram on the right is what we call the flywheel. So the funnel is still of existence, but more and more companies are embracing a flywheel strategy because it builds momentum over time. The role of a CRM is to help you convince or convert strangers into prospects and prospects into clients or customers, and then customers into promoters or evangelists. The activities and the features in the middle is everything it does. I can use very simple tools to attract new business. Sonya just mentioned Octopus CRM. It mimics a human on a LinkedIn campaign. I can connect, I can message, I can convert, all through setting up a sequence of emails. I can engage by taking them out of LinkedIn and taking them into the real world using all of that information that I have found. And I can delight by setting up some simple virtual experiences, as David just pointed out. When you drill down deeper, you know, and this is often a couple of questions that we get is like, well, how do I find, or what do I need, or what's the best tool out there? As long as the tool ideally does it all in one, can help you with marketing and sales and servicing, then you're onto a winning formula. There's a lot of key benefits that you want to be looking at, and I've simplified them down to the top 6. You want something that can collect and centralize all data. The amount of firms that we walk into and we go, show us your database, and they bring up 6 different places. You know, they've got their client database, they've got maybe MailChimp up and running, they've got WordPress because people have filled out their contact form, but nothing's centralized. You know, there's almost a bit of a hurdle just to get it all into one place so it can be used. The second key benefit is you want something that can manage everything. You know, you want to be able to go, okay, these are my leads. I need to segment my data because as Sonya pointed out, the content needs to be relevant. We can't live in the world where we do the shotgun approach. The piece of content dictates the contact list. If this is a piece of content that is designed for clients only, then it needs to go to a client-only list. And same thing for leads and prospects. It could be something like testimonials or impact value statements that you send to people who are on that fence of borderlining, do I choose you or do I go somewhere else? Moving into key benefits, there's nothing worse when you find a tool that does all that, but you spend more time creating the actual activity or logging the activity than it actually took to actually do the activity. What I mean by that is we don't want to have to log a phone call. We don't want to take 5 minutes to log information for a phone call if the phone call only took 30 seconds or a minute to actually conduct. There's something backwards there. You want to look at how you can create some efficiencies. First step is mapping out your process, identify which ones are common and repetitive, and then working out, can I repeat that? Tim made an interesting example. You know, his team is doing 20 unexpected touch points. Now, this could actually be automated. You could set this up really easy. And I did a quick example as we were speaking of what that would actually look like. This one goes in the first 12 weeks of a client joining us. And all it is just setting up every 14 days another touch point. It's personalized. It's coming directly from their account manager, which is Mia. And every 14 days, there's a follow-up task internally and external task just to say, hey, how's everything going? That touch point unexpectedly creates a conversation. That conversation leads to further discussions on how you can help them.
Well, you also want to know. Just a bit of an update for everyone. We're going to keep going with this through to 12, and we're going to do the deep dive into the client rebound system. Tim and I are going to cover that this afternoon. We've got 15 minutes of that later. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. We just want to keep running with this for now. Keep going, Ryan.
I've only got a couple more minutes left.
I'll tell you what's interesting about this, though, because I'm going to grill you with some questions even if you've got a couple of minutes left. Oh, you keep going, and then I'm going to grill you.
Okay, perfect. The two last key benefits, I'll quickly skim over these because I want to go into like how do you then actually work out what tool is the right fit for me. Collaborating through integrations is probably the big part. You know, I speak to firms on a regular basis where, you know, often they'll have like 6 to, you know, half a dozen to a dozen different platforms. They all have very similar features. They've all got similar uses. Example is, you know, Xero captures financial data, so does a CRM. The difference is Xero will allow you to do X, Y, Z. You can do reports, but you can't do any external communication. You can't in Xero send an automatic email to say, hey, David, thanks for being an awesome client. You've been with us for 5 years. Here's a little bit of a reward. Through a CRM, using the same financial information, you can trigger off activities like that. You want to find a tool that has a native connection. Otherwise, the default is Zapier, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with. The last thing I'll touch on is managing your pipeline and increasing your revenue. I live in the world, anything anything that's not measured can't be managed. We need to kind of understand how many opportunities did I create for the last 12 months? How many of them escalated to touch point one or first meeting, how many went to second, how many closed one, closed lost, deferred, and what were the reasons. Again, that data then becomes very useful in terms of how to manage your business and what strategies you need to implement further. When looking at different tools and how to choose, here are my checklist that I always do. The first thing you want to know is the usability. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't actually experience this unless you do a free trial or maybe potentially commit for a couple of months. But you want to know how easy it is to set up. A lot of people who have done this in the past and then engage us, when we start to evaluate what they've done so far, some of them have done a little bit okay, others have done nothing okay, some of them are just using it off the shelf and it's not really working for them. So setting it up, customizing it, and implementing into your firm are probably the first three things that you want to evaluate. How easy is it going to do, and how hard is it to roll it out to the team? As I mentioned before, we want to make sure that we can create all the activities we want. So you're probably looking for something that's got a little bit more of an all-in-one or a one-stop shop. You want to be able to log all of your different activities. Again, you want to make it very simplicity to use. So, look at that factor and look at their consistency. A lot of tools will have all of the bells and whistles, and then when you start to use them, you start to see cracks. You start to realize why this one's a little bit cheaper, why this one's more affordable. It's not as working, and again, the troubleshooting takes more time than the activity should. When it comes to features and modules, look at the data capture. You want to be able to have something that connects to your website, because that's where everybody who's investigating you will sit. Like a predator in the deep, you don't know these people exist. They're hovering around, they're evaluating your presence, they're looking at online reviews. All of that sort of stuff can be captured when you have it connected to your site. I mentioned all-in-one, and what I mean by that is more so than like marketing. It controls your socials. It allows you to build landing pages. You can create custom forms. Live chats seem to be very popular at the moment. Bot chats are starting to have a big engagement rate because people aren't operating in the 9-to-5 world anymore. Bot chats are perfect to offer 24-hour service just in case someone has any questions. Now, again, you've got to make sure that the feature fits your strategy. Streamlining repetitive tasks, that comes down to all of your automations. You want something that can do everything you're after. Some tools put some restrictions on that. Number of contacts is a big contributing factor, especially when it comes to pricing. How many do I have? How many am I averaging in terms of my growth? And then how often are they turning over? How many are going bounce, unsubs, etc. Integrations, majority of the popular tools will connect to a handful of third-party applications. Connecting it to XDM or any other practice management tool might change depending on who they are or what tool you play for. What you want to create here is you want to eliminate the need to double entry the data. You want something where it can capture. So if we think about the journey, they land on your website, they fill out a form. At that stage, it's entered into your database. Now, it might be a week or a month or a year before they convert to the next stage, but that whole period of time needs to be tracked and measured. And again, it's kind of like Big Brother where we can see everything that you're doing. Then we want to be able to go, okay, this person has now come on board as a client, signed agreement, happy days. You want to be able to pass all of that information. Now, not all of it's going to be relevant to your XDM, so just capturing even just the contact information, the entity details, that can all be pushed and transferred over. From then, you can do Workflow Max, you can connect it to other third-party software that you're using, but from then, you've now in the service environment. Depending on budgets, depending on the actual parameters that you need, majority of CRMs out there have a simple model. They normally charge per user, per client, per feature. Some of them have an upfront fee, others lock you in for 12 months, some do monthly, quarterly. There's a lot of levers out there that you can pull that gets you a better deal. My advice is shop around. Don't be afraid to chase a bargain. It is a dog-eat-dog world in this space, and they love to give you a bit of a discount, knowing that you are going to be a good fit for them. The last thing here is support. Show and tell support is readily available. A lot of people will have their own little knowledge center. They'll have maybe a live chat, but what you're trying to chase here is somebody who actually has the ability to do it for you as well. Some tools offer that as a premium, others have it included, but you want to get to the point where if you don't know how to do something, or if you just don't have the time, you can put in a query and they can do it all for you. The last thing I'll talk about quickly before David grills me with some questions is my top picks. So I can see in the chat, people have come through Zoho CRM, Active Campaign, Agile CRM. Like, these are all great tools. These are probably my two best tools on the market. And the reason why is evident. So HubSpot is perfect. It's all in one. It has a very simple interface. Anybody can use it. It comes off the shelf pre-built. There's a lot of templates and a lot of default automations. It does take a while to actually utilize everything. So a lot of firms might see it as a bit of an overkill to begin with. What you want to be thinking of is not picking a tool that I need right now, but what I'm going to need in the near future. You don't want to change your CRM every 12 months. You want to be living in a world of 3 to 5 years. So HubSpot allows you to do things now, but it also gives you a lot of room to grow into it. A con of HubSpot, and it pops up everywhere, no matter where you search, HubSpot's biggest draw card is the price. They have a free version. You can access their free CRM. It will give you unlimited users, unlimited contacts. But the moment you want to do anything with them, if you want to do any automation, there's a steep price increase. It jumps from anywhere between $100 a month up to about $1,500 a month, depending on, again, number of contacts that you have in your database. They also have a premium onboarding fee. It is, again, it's a combination of show and tell and a done for you. But one of the advantages is that they have a lot of integrated apps. Someone just mentioned it could not effectively integrate it with XPM. It costs a fortune. The XPM application is quite new. It's only been released. It's in its first stages of versions. From what HubSpot has told me, they are working on trying to improve more features, more connections. There is ways around how to do it a little bit more streamlined that I can talk to people offline about.
HubSpot told me they're only going to invest in that if more accountants buy it. So they're playing the chicken and egg game over there. Yeah,
exactly. They're dipping their toe in the water to see if this industry is actually going to be worth their time and energy, if that makes sense. The second one I would choose is Active Campaign. Has very similar features. It's very simple to use. It has a lot of Zapier integrations, so not native integrations. So you have to set up some Zapier, which is what I call stitching together all of your different tech stacks. It's quite affordable. You can get started on a free trial, and then you can go some premium features from as little as $15 per month on an annual term. Some of the cons: very limited reporting. There's no free version, as I mentioned. A lot of the support is based in the US, so the time zones don't really agree with us, but there's no rule done for you. They'll give you access to links, and they will help as much as you can, but essentially you've got to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Perfect. So I hope that was informative. I hope that was kind of helping you guys make a decision moving forward. David, on to you.
Fantastic. Look, just a couple of things from me. I've been using CRM. I use HubSpot in my practice. It's a beast. It takes a long time to get it humming, but when you get it humming, the return on investment's absolutely massive. It's just huge. Paul Torkins has just asked about MailChimp. I'm going to ask Tim to come back on. We're going to show you really quickly how ChangeGPS has a CRM, particularly for sole practitioners, that uses MailChimp. It's just one small function of a CRM, though, which is the communications part out to clients and keeping track of services. Because I do think that a CRM is needed for sole practitioners, but XPM is kind of good enough for the majority of the things that you need. Look, Sonya and Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. I know Lan wants to have a chat to you about her business, so I'll flick through an email introducing you there. Tim, I'm going to throw to you, mate.
Actually, what I'll do is, okay. Can you see my screen there, Dave?
I can. You might be running payroll in the background there as well, so you might want to maybe close that so in case something's going to come up there. But I can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. I'm just going to find my mum here. So if you're using XPM, this flows through. Otherwise, just type the client's name in. So what we do here, I'm just going to clear this. What we do is we've broken up an accounting firm's work offering into compliance, business advice, and wealth advice. Now you can switch this off in global settings. If you don't do wealth advice, that's great. But I'd suggest leaving it there because as an accountant, you should be coordinating the work that you do for your clients. So when a client comes in, before Helen comes in, I'll say, right, see these tiles here, you toggle them by clicking on them. So green means you do this work for a client. Red means the client has told you they don't want it. And blue means there's an opportunity. So what we can do is we can say, right, so I'm doing financials at the moment, but there's an opportunity for tax planning. We do their ASIC work at the moment, so I'll just do that. We do the BASs and everything else, but we need to recommend FBT so we can get rid of that 3-year audit period. They need a 1-page strategic plan. They need some succession planning. And as well, she said that she doesn't want to talk about insurance, so we won't, but she definitely needs some estate planning. So what we can do is we can save that. And then the next step is, right, what I do is I'm going to print this off, and that takes just a few seconds to create there. And then this comes up as a very simple document like that. Now what we do is I put that either on the screen when a client comes onto a Zoom meeting. When we used to have face-to-face meetings, I put that on the table. And I start my meeting with this. And this is good because a lot of accountants, especially if like you're an employee, if you've got a team, they find it hard to sell. And this isn't selling, this is just really educating about what you can do. So I'd say, Helen, hey, look, just to let you know, here's a 1-page report that shows you, like a lot of clients aren't aware of all the things that we can do to help them. Here's the 1-pager that shows you what we're currently doing for you, which is the things in green. You've told us you don't want to talk about insurance, and that's cool. We won't do that. No pressure at all. But the things in blue there, they're the things that I want to talk to you about over the coming months because I think we can really deliver some value and help you. And the client always says, that's fantastic. So that's a great way just to segment stuff. Now, the key thing from there is you can then go from service plan down into the firm here and look at the potential. And this is brilliant because then you can have your whole practice rated in all of those areas as far as what you're currently doing and what you're not doing. You can then say, right, everyone that we're not doing estate planning for, if it's not in use, if it's an opportunity, we can export that to MailChimp, which is just brilliant. So I know a lot of you have seen that if you're using ChangeGPS, but that's just service plan, makes it so simple and so easy. Hey, thanks, Ryan and Sonya. That was a sensational section. That was really, really good. Please stay on board throughout the day and you can comment and be part of this. It's been really good having you here.